Cool. So Evelyn, if you want to start off by asking me any and every question that that you have.
Yeah. So I think the first set of questions is about basic principles.
Okay.
So making things, I usually do things in terms of my aesthetics, what I enjoy, what inspires me, and so on.
Yeah.
And I feel that's an important part of like starting a business. But thinking of a business in terms of money, materials, manufacturing, what are the key basics I should consider before even thinking about making a bag or starting a collection?
Well, I think the name is one of the key ones because
Okay.
most times it's the most valuable asset your brand will have. Sometimes more so than the product itself. Because if I use the comparison of like of a music band, let's say Destiny's Child, and how they had different members over the years, same way as Sugar Babes. Even though the different members have changed, the band name still remains the same. So the name of the group is a trademark. So it's an
Yeah.
asset that has value through association over time. Now, whoever owns that asset is up to whoever either owns a business or let's say Matthew Knowles. It's either Matthew Knowles owns Destiny's Child, or the company that Matthew Knowles owns the Destiny's Child trademark. Now there's a couple benefits to that. I mean, if you decide that you personally want to own the trademark for your business, then depending on how successful you are, that's a lifelong asset that will only grow in value, and no one else can take that away from you. If you have your business, your limited company that owns the trademark, and you decide to get, I don't know, investors on board that acquire shareholdings in the business, unless you specified in your contract, they would have a share of the name as well. So
Okay.
there's been instances where certain fashion designers who have been their birth name, they can no longer use their birth name because the corporation owns the name as the trademark.
It's like Donnacare Millen and things like that. I
Yeah,
think I heard.
that's a good example. Yeah. So with trademarking as well, it sometimes bodes well if you want to sell to a retailer. Some retailers prefer your name to be trademarked because it means that you're selling under a name that's protected and won't confuse the customer. It
Yeah.
shows that you're a serious established brand. The trademark will last, I think it's every 10 years, it's up for renewal, and then you would then choose what class or category you want the trademark to be registered under. So for your brand, it would be clothing, headgear, and footwear, which is class 25.
Class 25. Okay.
Yeah.
And does that work just for the UK or is that international?
Well, there's a European trademark. There's no such thing as a worldwide trademark. There's different regions of trademarks that you can acquire, and all of those would have different prices. But yeah, you would start off with the UK first naturally, and then decide which regions around the world you feel best appropriate for you.
Thank you.
I think if I remember correctly, it's about £230 for a trademark in the UK for
Okay.
one class.
Um, then the other question that I have about basics, how do I get hold of like suppliers, manufacturers, um, start like a conversation, but also protecting my initial design ideas, what's developed. Yeah.
Tell me a bit about your product first.
Um, I'm hoping to mainly make bags. I've got one I never got to finish, but it was one of the final pieces I did on the course. But it's mainly made out of leather, and it has like a specific shape in terms of how much you can fit inside. So I think I've got lots of rubbish in here to keep the shape of the bag. Let's just double check. Yep. 1 second. And then on the side as well, it expands further. So I think a lot in 3D. So when I was making this, a lot of the techniques, I wasn't sure what they were, but the teacher was then helping me, and then I was instructing her what goes where, and she was helping me to sew it. And
okay, right.
So it's not like a simple design. If that makes any sense.
So you had a machinist to help you make this, yeah?
The teacher. So this was the final piece I did on my course for the bag making, and some bits that were really complex, like sewing the zipper here on the side and stuff. She had particular techniques to use on the machine. So she was sewing those bits for me, and because she didn't understand how the bag was put together, I was learning and coaching her at the same time. So like this bit goes like this, and then she was guiding on what best stitch technique would fit with what I wanted to do, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
Did you create a pattern?
Yeah, I created a card. It's like it's not cardboard, but it's similar. It's like a.
But either way, you've created the pattern with it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So in terms of protecting the idea, the main way to go would be a design registration, which I think costs about £60 just for one idea, but then you can do 20 ideas for like £90. And the way you present that design registration is that you would do a black and white digital front and back illustration. That's all you need to do a design reg. You don't need the image of the physical product.
Okay.
But there obviously has to be an identical likeness from what you've drawn and what the product is that you're going to make. And you submit that, and I think you probably get about 10 years, or I think it's 5 or 10 years ownership.
Okay.
The other option is getting a patent, which is a lot more expensive.
Okay.
And the design registration you can do yourself pretty much. When you get a patent done, it's probably best you go through a patent attorney, so they can explain to you clearly the process, the costs involved, and sometimes they can tell you there and then if the design is worth a patent. So they can say £2,000, and that's probably a low end cost for a patent. But the advantage of it is that a patent is for like technically advanced designs. So those maybe that bag could come under a patent if there's a feature in it that's technically brilliant that hasn't been done before.
Okay.
So I would look into that and see if you feel it's worth doing for your brand. So those are the two main ways.
Okay.
There's also, I forgot what the term is. There's a story of Tom Brown, the brand, and Adidas. So Tom Brown was using, I think, 4 stripes.
Okay.
For a while. I think pretty much since uni. And then Adidas, who obviously have the 3 stripes, decided to sue him. And Adidas lost in court because Tom Brown was able to prove that from day dot he was using these 4 stripes. So I think that's called it's not right refusal. It's something to do with proving that you have a track record.
Like a provenance?
Sorry?
Like a provenance?
I think it might be the term, because I'm not too. I think it'll probably speak to someone like a lawyer.
Okay.
To get the correct term. but it's about
Yes.
proving that you've used this concept for a long time and your brand stands on it.
Okay.
So there's certain features I've used 18 years old that if another brand decided to say that they were doing it for me, they'd have a hard time proving it. So designing your range with key features really helps
Okay.
backing you up if you haven't got the finances to cover yourself legally.
Thank you. And in terms of contacting factories
Okay,
and things like that,
okay. So would you want to produce in the UK? Would you want to produce abroad?
that's one of the things I'm not sure about because I would prefer for it to be made in the UK because I think it's a good um, thing about making something that's local,
Yeah,
also ethical. Because I would not like for my things to be produced, say, like in a terrible conditions where people are being paid like £1 a day or something like that.
sure.
And if it's made in the UK, something that I can control more because I'll be able to visit factories and how things have been made and even in terms of materials, I would like for things to be sustainable, but I don't know how to conciliate that and then do the basics in terms of making sure that I'm at least making a little bit of profit,
Okay,
making sure that I'm putting myself in the right position in terms of
yeah.
starting the brand. Yeah.
In an ideal world, give me the retail price that you'd want to sell the bag for.
Um, I would say about £300.
300. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And you mentioned sustainable in terms of materials. So what would that be ideally?
So on the course we work mainly with leather, but over the years I've noticed there's like a lot of new materials that mimic leather, but they're natural based. Like there's like a mushroom leather right now and things like that. There's
Yeah.
one with pineapple, I think.
Mm.
So I would like to pursue that route.
Okay.
So I'm not saying that I'm not ever going to use leather, but I would like to pursue the more sustainable route if possible.
Okay. So in terms of factories, there's one in particular that I've used to do my bags, and they are in East London. The
Okay,
escapes me. I'll find it in my emails and send it to you.
thank you.
Uh, uh, I found them through recommendation. I think probably starting off by Googling leather factories in the UK.
Okay,
It's, it's probably the first port of call. There's actually another colleague of mine who makes bags for Hermes, makes samples for them. So he's very good. He's not a factory per se, but he's like a one kind of man band.
okay,
Uh, and then I think it's getting a proper tech pack made before you even approach the factory.
okay.
Getting a tech pack that goes into the details of the key measurement points of the product, the color options, obviously a black and white image, the construction notes. So whether it's got a twin needle finish, whether there's any bar tacking, whether there's any bonding, whether there's any hand sewing, any hardware such as rivets, eyelets, all those construction notes will be recorded on your tech pack. So the tech pack isn't like a step by step of how to make it. It's more a document that lists the components that go into making a product, the quantity of fabrics and components that's needed, so that you can do your budgeting. You can technically give that tech pack to the factory, and then they can do all the sourcing for you if they're doing a production order. Because most factories, I don't really know any reputable ones that will take on a product without a tech pack.
Okay.
And I mean, a good tech pack will cost you at least 250 to have all the relevant information. Now, I guess it's optional if your tech pack includes the color chart, if you're going to do different color variations. I think the more detail you can do, the better. And then once you've found a factory that specializes in making your kind of bag, because that's really important, is them giving you a quote for sampling and a quote for production. Now, what you might find is the factory, some factories will have a minimum order. And I think for UK, it's generally going to be about 50 units.
50 units, okay.
Now, that doesn't mean that they can't do 20, that doesn't mean that they can't do 100. But what you find is that the unit price that they charge you for 20 compared to 50 to 100 will change. Naturally, the more units you make, the lower the production price. But you may not have necessarily the budget to do 100 units, even though that might give you enough margin to make. So you might have a budget to make, I don't know, 45 or 40 units, but you're sacrificing your budget a little bit because it's charged at a higher price.
Okay.
So going back to what you were saying about your target retail price, I mean, factoring in using sustainable fabrics, making it in the UK, British designer, I would probably try to aim my retail price point to be around the 400-500 mark at least to make a decent kind of margin. Because knowing off offhand, our bags, I think their cost about a sample was about £250.
Okay.
Production is probably going to work out to about, I think, about 150 for a certain quantity.
150 per unit.
Yeah, that's in the UK.
Okay.
So probably talking a small order there. And it all
Okay.
depends on how much detail is involved. Because our bags they're clearly different from yours. And it also depends on how well you can negotiate with the factory.
Okay, that's also negotiation.
Because if you can kind of say to them that, oh, if you can prove to them that you're going to give them repeat business, then they're more likely to negotiate with you. If you kind of demonstrate that you're just a one-off, then they're going to try and squeeze as much out of you as possible.
And then in terms of copywriting, things like that. So say I've got the tech pack and I get in contact with a manufacturer.
Yes.
Is that something that needs to be signed beforehand before I start to share my stuff? Because you need to see what I'm producing, right?
Yeah, so the thing is, like when I used to run a factory, I used to not give a quote until I'd seen what was being made.
Yeah.
Now some customers want you to sign an NDA. Now I'm more than happy to do that, but I charge £50 to read a contract and then do a consultation. Because it takes time to read a contract that you
Yeah.
legally sign. So I tied the consultation into signing an NDA in order to provide a quote as well, where I need to see what was being made. You might get some factories that were happy to look at the product and then give you a price based on that. If you can get them to sign an NDA, yeah, it helps. The NDA isn't ironclad where it saves them and it saves anybody copying you. And when you think about it, factories aren't, well, the ones over here aren't really in the business of copying. I know it's different in China, where they can copy you and you won't even know. So I say yes to the NDA.
Okay.
Keep it quite basic. But I would probably say don't at this stage be worried about being copied,
Okay.
because it's something that like someone told me this in the music industry a while back. Um, unless you build momentum, people won't care about copying you. So focus on building the momentum first. And then if you do get copied, then it's kind of like a compliment. And it actually
Okay.
annoyed me, what like when I was told this, but it made sense. Because I'm someone that I've been copied from when I was at uni to all the way to being in business. Um, but yeah, it is seen as a sign of compliment. But I think your job as a creative is to keep being creative. Zara's whole business model is to copy designers like you, like me, and make it commercial. Um, and indirectly, you get the credit for it, even though you may not get the money for it if someone does copy you. Yeah. But factories in the UK are less likely to copy you, far less likely.
Okay. Okay. Um, the other question I have is about budget and material sourcing.
Okay. Yeah, so something I was going to add to the manufacturing, which ties into this topic, is there's some trade shows, some fabric trade shows to attend. There's one on the 5th and the 6th of September,
Okay.
which is called Textile Fair London. I think there was one last month called Source that was at Kensington Olympia. And that's like a fabric and a manufacturing trade show. But you could probably go online and download the most recent exhibitor catalogue. But Textile Fair London is next month in Islington at the Design Centre.
Okay.
It's like, well, there's probably about 200 fabric agents and trim agents on display there, where you can meet them in person, see what they've got on display, see what they're trying to get rid of, see what they're trying to promote for the future seasons, and just really have a conversation about who's got what minimum order. As far as leather goes, GH Leathers is very good. Where are you getting your leather now?
This is still, I bought like a big roll from, oh gosh, I can't remember what that place is called. I think it's around Dalston. When we're doing the course, we had to buy like a
Oh,
large quantity of
I
leather
know.
for the course.
Is it Woolcrest?
Um,
Is it Dorster Mills?
it was like in an alleyway.
It is what? It's like a huge kind of warehouse.
Yeah, yeah. It
Yeah,
like is you go in an
probably
alleyway and
Woolcrest.
then okay.
Yeah, probably Woolcrest. And then there's like
Oh, sorry, bachelors something, bachelors, J bachelors,
JE Bachelors.
something like that.
Okay, all right, I've never heard of them.
Yeah,
Because I know
yeah.
in that area you've got Woolcrest, you've got Crescent Trading, you've got Dorster Mills, and you've got Mermaid Fabrics.
Okay,
Those are the main ones. But GH Leathers, they're based in Whitechapel.
Whitechapel.
They're
Okay,
very good. They have this. I'm not sure if they still do it, but we've got their sample catalog, which is like 10 pages long, where they've got small cuttings of every one of the different leathers that they do. So from cowhides to foil prints, to nubucks. Yeah, they've got a wide variety of stuff.
thank you. Yeah. So in terms of looking like at materials and samples and things like that.
Mm.
So say if I'm making like a small bag or something like that for myself, I
Yeah,
can go to the shops and see a price I find affordable. When I'm thinking about manufacturing like in a larger scale,
yeah.
do I still go to the same places?
Yeah,
Or,
GH Leathers is good for that because What I tend to do with GH Leathers is buy their dead stock. So
Oh,
they have pieces that they don't see any value in, but it will
okay,
to make your samples, and they'll probably price it like half the normal price for a skin. Um,
okay,
and then when you're ready to do your production, they'll tell you the bulk price because you want to make sure that, well, this is what I try and do as a designer, is I avoid buying fabrics from only fabric retailers. So like Dalston Mills is a great shop, but they're not a wholesaler, they're just a retailer. So when I want to do, I don't know, 80 dresses, I'm not going to go back to them to get that fabric because there's not going to be any margin. Um, unless I've already factored that in, like they might be selling the fabric for £10 a meter, but the wholesale price, if I went to the actual supplier, would be £5 or £6. So I always want to go to the supplier who is selling the fabric in bulk and seeing if they'll sell me a couple meters or minimum of 10 meters, where you're still making a huge saving.
okay,
There's a place called MP Silk Textiles in Tottenham. I'm not sure how good they are for leathers, but they're
okay,
really good for everything else. But their minimum order is 10 meters, regardless of what.
okay. And then continue on in terms of um, materials. Something that I found when I was doing the course, I was trying to get custom um, elements for
Okay.
my bag.
Mm.
I found something, I think it was like on Alibaba or something like
Yeah.
that, but I didn't get very good results. I'm not sure if there's like a specific place, maybe in the UK that does like hardware
What
and
did you
things
get
like.
the results?
Um, it was this. So I had my logo made,
Right.
but the quality wasn't very good.
Okay.
So yeah, so I'm not sure if there's like something more local that I can get like better samples and have a look.
Hmm. The thing with those kind of hardwares that they're always done in China,
Okay,
even if it's a company that's based over here. There's, I would say, the best trim company that I know for fashion is London Trimmers. They do everything from buckles to eyelets to studs to rivets to the top quality zips to zip fasteners. There's also a company called Durable Fasteners, and I think they're based in Hackney.
okay,
Now, they're good for customized denim jean buttons and engraved uh, buckles for belts and engraved branded rivets. The thing is, I would say Alibaba was probably the best place because that's where though all of those companies, when it comes to branded goods, they're getting that stuff done in China.
okay,
Who they use, I don't know, but I would still say that Alibaba would be the best place to get it done. But it's about you specifying what you want in terms of the composite. So when you ordered those your branding, did you get
yeah.
a sample delivered?
Um, no, they asked me for the. I think they asked it for in PDF, like in vector. I sent that to them,
Yeah.
and then they asked me what kind of pins I wanted at the back so that it attaches on the bag,
Yes.
and what color I wanted. I explained, and
Mm.
then when I received it, it wasn't right because the first one that the pin was too big, so it was going over the actual
Right.
logo. And then they remade it. It still wasn't good. In the end, I got my money back, but I got like a pile of things I'm not going to use. So, yeah.
Well, I would probably order a sample in future
Okay.
from any company because even as a factory, we've done stuff for customers that we've created a sample, they've approved it, but then sometimes they've expected something different in production. But if it's not
Yeah.
communicated at sample stage, then that's how it's going to be produced at production stage. So
Okay.
some of it is about you being as clear as possible in terms of what you want. Um, so next time when you deal with a company through Alibaba, order the sample and then assess it as properly as you can before production happens. And even if you have to pay for another sample, it's better to pay for another sample than
Okay.
go through production and then you don't like it.
The other thing also is like linings and things like that. I would like for it to be custom made.
Okay.
Um, is that something that is best to get in the UK or outside?
So you mean branded, right?
Yeah, so like it would be like a variation of a pattern of my logo in the lining of the bags.
Would it be printed or woven in?
I would prefer for it to be woven.
Okay. So what you need to do then is find a fabric mill.
Fabric mill.
Um, and then with that, you're probably going to have to go for quite a large minimum order. I'm talking about
Okay.
300 meters because the way they have to set up their machines, it's not financially viable for them to do low quantities when they're setting up all of those machines.
Okay.
So yeah, find a fabric mill and find out what their minimum order is. Um, and I guess you would need to find a swatch of fabric that is close to what you want. And then it might be a case that they'll ask you to submit your artwork for the fabric, or they might have that service as part of their internal kind of system, kind of way of doing things.
Okay.
But obviously make sure that it's a fabric design that serves you for a long time because obviously if it's like 300 plus meters,
Yeah.
that will probably do 600 bags.
Thank you. Um, the other question that I had is about how to go about building your client base.
Okay.
Because I it's not like I'm graduating from fashion school. I don't have like any connect or anything like that. So someone just starting from the beginning, what would be the best strategy to
To build a client base.
yeah,
I mean, you could, if you can afford it, you can start off by making free products for celebrities.
okay,
That's a more expensive option, but if it works out, then you win big. The other option is to make people's bag designs for them, whatever their bag design is, you make that for them, and then you get known as a bag maker, and then I guess you push your brand products simultaneously as you're building your clientele on one side of the business, because I
okay,
guess that gives you money to stay within in the realms of bag design, even though it might not be your bag design. Mm,
okay.
I
Um,
guess the other option is investing heavily in photography whether that's you doing it or you get someone professional, and you lean heavily on that for your social media strategy, or you get another bag made and then you film that process as much as you can, and you stagger the footage and release that as reels and as TikTok videos.
Okay.
That's probably the most cost effective option. I mean, out of other brands, what would you say is the key difference to your product?
Um, that it's not a standard shape. It's something that's very specific, and I hope that if it takes, it'll be like instantly recognized. Um, Also, the idea that it'll be something that you can use on your everyday, but it's still unique and it makes the user feel special with what they have. The same way you can have like just a tote bag. There are different ways of like looking at tote bag. For example, there's a Japanese designer, I can't remember his name, but he made them with I think it was like a shiny triangular shaped material.
Right.
So even though
Yeah.
it's like a yeah, so even though it's a tote bag, it's a special tote bag. That's the kind of feel that I want my bags to have.
Okay.
So it's something that yes, you use only every day. You might take it to work. You might maybe go to the gym with it.
Mhm.
But when people see it, it's instantly recognized, and you feel special because you have that bag, and not everyone has it. And yeah, that's the what I'm aiming for.
I would probably say, from everything that you said, the part about making the customer feel special is the probably the only part the customer will care about, how it's going to make them feel. Because, like in my experience, customers will say that they want something that looks different,
Yeah.
but then what they end up buying is the same old stuff as before. But if you, I guess, if you can communicate to a customer how you're going to make them feel special in your advertising, then that's one of the key drivers to a sale.
Okay.
The the design being unique, that has some weight to it as well, but that only designers care about that stuff.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I guess focusing on the psychological benefits to the customer
Okay.
is going to be more important to them. One thing I learned recently is that, like, in terms of making a sale, you have to communicate to the customer how you can help them, not, well, yeah, how you can help them based on a way that they understand, not how you can help them in a way that you understand. It always has to be about them. Um, and I guess the going back to your patent, a patent is enough to sell a product. It's enough of a USP. But I guess between you and your patent attorney, you'll both be able to define if there is something patentable there.
Okay.
But for now, we're going on making the customer feel special and how you make the customer feel special.
Do you
So
have any recommendations on patent attorneys?
no, I don't.
No.
I know that with the intellectual property office, they've got this database of free trademarking attorneys. I think you get like 15 minutes uh, of like a free call with them. But in terms of patent,
Okay.
I don't know any off head for your kind of product. But it's quite easy to do Google search and or even on Instagram, you can probably find one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so once I have all the basics down,
Yeah,
in terms of knowing how big my collection is going to be, the order, I've got the manufacturer sorted, everything else.
yeah.
What would be an ideal timeline in terms of preparing to launch, and what steps would follow for that?
That depends on what kind of personality you have. Because if you,
Yeah.
I'll use myself as an example. I procrastinate big time, and that sounds weird. Like for when people hear that procrastinate, it just sounds odd because I'm very like target driven. So I tend to execute things in the shortest time possible because I know that if it drags on past a certain time frame, it's not happening.
Mhm.
So like I remember when I wrote my book, I took 4 or 5 weeks off work and did it in that 4 or 5 weeks because I knew that if I'm having to go into the studio and then with the kids and then home life, it's either not going to get done or it's going to take years. So I guess to answer your question, I would try and give it 3 months. See if you can meet your targets within 3 months to either have a physical product or your production order ready. Because in terms of like a tech pack, that should take about a week to complete.
Okay.
In terms of your fabric sourcing, I would start that from today if you haven't already. The first sample probably about 4 weeks to 6 weeks. Production would probably take about 6 weeks. So therein goes 6 months. Sorry, 3 months, because after your sample's been made, then you're gonna do your photography. So then I would list your first 12 weeks and put at least one thing in each of those weeks that you're gonna achieve. Because also whilst do you have a website?
I do, but I haven't really looked after it.
What,
Yeah.
what platform has it been built on?
Uh, WordPress.
Okay, I think that Shopify is better than WordPress for um, ease of um, user, was it user friendliness,
Okay.
and also for a sleeker look. My understanding with WordPress is that there's a lot more that goes into it, especially for our sector, to make it look modern. Shopify has templates already that are free that are available to you, as well as the ones that you can buy if you get a competent website designer that knows about coding. They can do some back-end customization. Shopify has the currency converter that's available to everyone, the language converter that's available to everyone. It's just a lot more user friendly in that sense.
Okay.
And it doesn't require someone who's advanced in their knowledge of web developing. I mean, our website was built on Shopify.
Thank you. And in terms of finances,
Yes.
um, I don't intend to like have any investors or anything like that. I want to do everything myself.
Okay.
So I know things fluctuate, but ideally, how much of a budget should I have for this entire process?
Okay. It's a difficult question to answer. How big is the collection?
I would say I would start with one bag with
Okay.
maybe 2 or 3 different colors.
Okay. And then how do you intend to market that product once it's made?
online, like Instagram and TikTok and things like that.
Okay.